Մերսի շատ որ եկել եք, ես Աննան եմ, SmartGate VC թիմից եմ։ Այսօր խոսելու ենք հաղթող pitch-էր ստեղծելուց։ Ավելի շատ կենտրոնանալու ենք Yes. My pleasure, if that's okay. If that's okay with everyone, I can do it in English. Is there anyone who is not comfortable with English? Perfect. Okay, so yeah, better. So hi again, I'm Anna. I'm from SmartGate VC team. I'm leading our operations in Armenia. A little bit about SmartGate VC before we jump into the topic of today. SmartGate VC is a pre-seed and seed venture capital fund Silicon Valley-based, investing in deep tech companies. Our key focus is AI, ML, AI-enabled SaaS, and AI-based companies. And most recently, we are also focusing on biotech and health tech companies. So far, we have done 23 investments. Most of them are Armenian founders, but we are also expanding our focus and starting to invest more in Eastern European companies and helping them to expand in the US market. So we have two tech hubs, one in Yerevan, another one is in Los Angeles, and we help founders to find their markets and expand to the US market, and we get them there, give them easier access to the market. So as you can imagine, we work with a lot of startups in the process. We have startup incubation, acceleration programs. So throughout this period, there is some accumulated knowledge about how you should pitch, how you should make the pitch of your company win and stand out in the competition. So if you're here, I believe you want your pitch to win. And before we move into the details, I'd like to mention that there are a couple of types of pitches, depending on what you are, what's your purpose, where you are at. Are you a startup or are you an individual, or what are you doing at the moment? You can be in a pitch competition, in some sort of a conference. You can be pitching to an investor, or you can just be applying to an acceleration program. For all of those, there is a couple of simple things that you should keep in mind while designing your pitch. And I don't mean the pitch deck. We'll get to that if we have some time after I cover the main topic. I'll also tell you more about the investor pitch deck. But mostly I'm going to focus on how you should give this the first impression when you are talking about your idea, your prototype, or your company, how you should make it stand out and how you should impress someone that you're talking to, regardless of that's an investor or something. But my experience is more in the investment area, so I'm gonna bring some examples from that area and tell you some things that we view as from the investment angle. So, as I said, there are a couple of types of pitches. There is this elevator pitch. It should be up to 1 minute, ideally 30 seconds. And this elevator pitch, you should be able to express the most important things about your startup or your idea, so that you can get an interest from someone, and you can they can start asking you questions. So your purpose here is to get them to like you. The first impression is good, and then they start asking you questions. There is this free 4-minute pitch, which is mostly used in demo days of acceleration, incubation programs, and also startup competitions or some conferences. This is an extended version. As you can imagine, it also has some accompanying slides, etc. But if we're talking about the elevator pitch, it's mostly whenever you meet someone during some conference, let's say Barcamp, and you want to introduce yourself and talk about what you are building, and maybe get their opinion, get their feedback, or just get their contacts to be able to later on follow up and do some meeting with them. Maybe they can help you with your marketing goals or something else. So for making this the first part, you are telling me about your idea, about your product, and there are these 3 points that I, as an investor, and also not only as an investor, but someone who is interested in innovative ideas and products, I evaluate you with these 3 questions. Do I understand it? So firstly, it should be clear. I should be able to understand it to be able to give you follow-up questions. the next thing is, am I excited about it? Am I excited by what you're building? And if I'm excited, we move to the next part, which is, do I like you? Do I like your team? And do I want to work with you? So these are the main criteria that we usually quickly evaluate the companies. And not only quickly, usually for our incubation and acceleration programs, these are the main criteria that we evaluate startups while accepting them. We also have like extended criteria, but this is like the most important things that we take into account. And of course, also on the personal level. So to be able to make sure when you talk about the product, we like understand what you say, to be able to like ask questions and like want to learn more about you, you should start leading with what, not why and how. Now there are lots of cases that like I start speaking with someone and they're like starting to tell me the story of how they came up with this idea, why is that a very huge problem in the world, and etc., etc., etc. How they are doing it, they're starting like go into very much like details. At this point, when I just met you, I don't need to know all these details. You just need to make sure I understand what you're trying to build, and then I'll ask follow-up questions. You'll be able to explain what you're building. So start with what? What are you doing? So what are you making? For doing this part, you should be very clear. This shouldn't be some like rocket science thing. Of course, if you are making a deep tech product, it's very difficult to explain it, and it takes some time to be able to explain it in a better way. But still, even in those cases, we work with the startups to make them explain it in a like very simple terms, so that even like some old man or like a baby can understand them. Because like at this point, we just need that part so that someone can see what you're doing. Then like you go into what is the problem and start explaining it. But this is like not in the first line of what you are saying. This is more like comes later on your elevator pitch, and who is the customer. So these are the main 3 points that you need to cover in this elevator pitch first part, and then after you can go into more details on your progress, on your traction, on what you need, who is on your team, etc. But this is like to grab my interest, these are the first three things that I need to listen to be able to then ask also questions and be able to follow what you are saying afterwards. So, as I said, it should be clear, concise, obvious, and reproducible. What I mean by reproducible, this can like sound tricky, is whenever I hear what you're saying, I should be able to imagine it in my head. Imagine what would it look like to make that product, or what that idea looks like in practice. Now, is it something like in the air? Do you like have idea how to make it? If you don't have the idea how to make it, you most probably won't be able to explain it to me, and I won't be able to, it won't sound reproducible, and I won't be able to understand what you mean. So don't be afraid of simplifying things and stating whatever you are doing in simple terms without like many buzzwords, all these like amazing, wonderful, world-changing, cutting-edge things. We believe that all of you are building excellent products. You are going to rock the world, but it's important that you don't infuse your pitch with all those words, because like we hear that words a lot. We hear like a lot of repetitive words and phrases throughout meeting a lot of startups and listening to a lot of ideas. So there are even some words that we start to ignore. You know, like you start talking about something, and like during the pitch, there are some words that just slip through. So you are not giving additional value to us by just infusing your pitch with those words. So try to be simple and efficient with whatever you are pitching, even if is it a like elevator pitch or the longer type of the pitch. Just try to be efficient. And like this efficiency part is, I'd like to highlight it because like wherever we see a description of the company in the application, or like I hear the description by mouth in the elevator pitch. If you're explaining it like this, like from from top down, and I'm not able to follow your thoughts, that also gives impression about you and about your team. If you are able to communicate what you are building in like precisely in more clear way, that also gives an impression of how great your team is. Because you guys thought about it. You guys actually worked on making a good pitch. You guys worked on making a good description out of it. And you thought it through before sending it over or just like saying it to me in a just like short acquaintance or just meet up during a conference. So this really gives an impression, and that's a like more solid way of impressing than like just putting all the buzzwords and trying to be fancy with all AI-based moon changing, I don't know, something like that. So we are gonna, I have two examples of good one-liner. One-liner is like this usually one line that you can use to describe your product or idea in some like applications or like, I don't know, first part of the pitch or just by talking about it. So here is one example. We are going to transform the relationship between individuals and information. Can you guys say, what do you understand from this? Are you able to understand what is the company doing? What's the idea?
No.
I have no idea. But if you have, you can share.
I guess that it connected some kind of the pitching information and the customer connection or the investor, that cycle.
Who knows?
In the middle of the cycle is the whole idea of individuals and information.
What's the niche?
It looks like buzzwords to me.
Yeah, it is. It is a lot of buzzwords, and I don't even remember whose one-liner is this, because I'm not able to connect this one-liner to an idea or a company. So let's just say this is not a good one-liner, and there are a lot of there is no information that I can use to be able to ask questions afterwards. When I hear something like this or read something like this, I need to go do more research, do or ask questions if we're talking and ask so many questions that it takes too long. I lose interest. And this is a very good one-liner from Airbnb from their earlier days. Then they were participating in an acceleration program. So Airbnb is the first online marketplace that lets travelers book rooms with locals instead of hotels. You see, it's very simple. They don't say that they're doing some rocket science thing. We believe that they have a great strategy. They're building a $100 million company, but this is very simple, and it makes us to be able to understand it, then see if we're excited about it, and then if we want to work with them, ask follow-up questions and see if they're actually worth working with. This is just to give an idea. Sure.
Yeah, this is the one-liner, right? Is it the same with the slogan, or the slogan is more simplified and more catchy?
No, slogan is something different. This depends. Slogan is, I always think slogan is more of something, I don't want to use this word, but I'm gonna, it's something bullshit thing, let's say. You don't need slogan to be able to, I don't know, pitch your company or impress people, or I don't know, have a great pitch. You can have it, of course. It's good to end your pitch with something catchy, something like this that people can relate to, that you impress them. But it's very different from this one. This is just to, whenever you are, say, trying to explain your idea in one sentence, what would you say? If you are trying to, you are applying for an incubation program, let's say, there is a question. There is always this question. What are you doing? Or I don't know, short, brief description of the company or the product. This should go there. And this should go in the first line of the elevator pitch, so that you say it, people is whoever you are talking to, they're ah. And then you go and explain the other parts of your company.
Question, like where does this stand in the pitch usually? Above the elevator part and maybe above.
The slogan.
Yeah, no, this.
This would go to the very beginning. If you are talking about the elevator pitch, or if you are talking about the written short descriptions of the company, this most probably will go on the very beginning as a first sentence, and then like the slogan, if you like have it, if you want to use it, it can go like not in the elevator pitch. You don't need it in the elevator pitch. It can go in the longer pitch, like 3-4 minutes pitch that you are like doing to investors or in some competition, and you can use it at the very end to like end with it, or just use it when like the first cover slide you have the name of the company and then you have this like slogan written under it. Yeah, that's like especially during early stages. The slogan doesn't really matter, like you'll be able to come up with something much better as you go, and you'll be able to state it and make people believe in it. But firstly, you should make them believe in you and your product, and you're able to execute, you're able to build it and make it succeed. So I guess we have some people, as you said, you used some things in the pitch. I guess we have some people in the audience who already are working in ideas or products. So if there is anyone who'd like to jump in and state what was the one-liner that they were using for an elevator pitch or during longer pitches, let's just listen and try to give each other feedback. Do you want to jump in? Okay, I think we can listen to 1 or 2 examples, and so that it's like interactive. I don't want to be the one speaking.
Okay, I think we used this one. I'm not sure about. Anyway, it was store, exchange, or transport your goods with our unified system of physical lockers.
Okay.
What do you get from it? Yeah.
I get that you have you are a B2C company who is like kind of selling physical. No, you have physical lockers, and you're making like you sell this service of allowing people to store some things in your lockers. Okay. Okay. Okay, and did I guess the business model right? Are you like going B2C?
Just, is it B2C or B2C? It goes from customer to customer.
Mm-hmm.
It also can grow from like myself to myself, like just store, exchange, and transport. Just store the item, retrieve it later, pass the item to different person with us. Or yeah, B2C model with collaboration with some small companies or bigger ones.
Okay, well, what's the problem behind that solution?
Mostly, it's like saving time of people, but in a specific way. Because right now, if you wanna store your item, you just have no way of doing that. You either find it in a crisis or something like that to do it, or if you wanna pass items like without arranging times with different people, you just can't do that. This is allowing you to do your part and just let the other person do their part.
Okay. And what makes you think that it has a big market?
I mean, first of all, it was based on personal experience of myself, and just like the initial customer interviews with maybe dozens of people showed that everybody has at least like one concern connected with this. So yeah, we haven't done like extensive research on that. It's in the process. The initial opinion seems to be quite positive. Okay.
Okay, great. Yeah, like it's simple, like the one-liner that you use. So I'm able to grasp what you're doing, and I'm able to ask like questions afterwards. The one thing that like the objection in your case would be like, aren't there like a lot of people doing this already? Isn't this a solved problem? How do you like back up what you say. That if is this actually solves problem? Do you have a market for it? Will you be able to go for that market and like be able to take some part of that market? So these are the things that arise while you talk about it. Okay, great. Maybe we can talk later more about what you're building. Okay, yeah, sure.
The one-liner should describe the main functionality of your product, or just, we need to add some details, for example, some differences between us and other products, or some high points of our product to it.
No, actually, that's the thing that you shouldn't be talking about like how you are building it, so not going into much details of how it works, etc., and not about the differentiation. At this first point, you are just stating what you are doing, right? Like one sentence description of what it is about, what you are trying to do, and then like you expand on how you're doing it, how is it different, how you think that you have market for it, etc. So you'll be able to go on, but like this part, I'm highlighting this, especially one-liner and these one-sentence descriptions, because these are usually, this is the most difficult part for the entrepreneurs and especially for tech founders to be able to do. And we get a lot of very extensively written product descriptions that you don't need to like for the first impression, and that very much doesn't help me while evaluating the startup. Let's say if you are like participating, like trying to participate in some acceleration program, or like just submitting your information to an investor or something like that, you should like keep in mind that these people are reviewing a lot of applications, and they're reviewing a lot of things, evaluating a lot of startups and ideas, and you should stand out by just being like simple to just help them to understand what you are doing. That's why you don't need to complicate things in the first sentence. It's a very common thing actually to complicate it, because founders say my product is so complex, or it's so, there is so much to say, how can I explain it in just one sentence or two sentences? But there is a way, and if you do that, that makes the impression. But this is like, I see that there is this fear that if you don't make it like complex sentences out of it, some people might think that you are just building something very simple, not complicated, not interesting, and that's what drives founders to complicate the elevator pitches and one-liners. But yeah, I'm not sure I have the example here, but whenever like to be able to simplify it, you can just write down the complex description that you have in mind with all those important things that you think you can't leave out. And just highlight the nouns that are in the sentence, the nouns that represent what you are doing, like the product, something about product, about like your customers and about your market, and like see how many nouns you have, and like just leave out all the descriptive things and try to make something simple out of only the nouns that stay in the description. It's like a very simple way of doing it, but with a couple of iterations and a couple of other strategies, it's possible to make a very complex description of a product into a quite simple one. So you should put time and effort on it. That's why I'm saying when you are able to explain your product in a simple way, we know that you put effort in it. We know that you put the time in it and you actually thought it through. Do we have any more people who want to jump in with one-liners?
Can I ask my one?
Sure.
Like Airbnb with a focus to home office facilities to help remote workers travel effectively.
Oh, can you please repeat it and like speak up a bit?
Yeah, sorry. Maybe closer. Airbnb with a focus to home office facilities to help remote workers travel effectively.
Okay, so what I get from what you said is that you are using the Airbnb model for remote workers and giving them like the places to work whenever they're traveling to different countries.
That's right.
Okay, that's quite simple. But that's actually, when you mentioned the Airbnb for something, that's a very common practice most recently that many people do that, like we are X for Z, say, like we are Airbnb for, I don't know, for photographers. We are Uber for photographers. I don't know, things like that. But these are like, you should be very careful with this X4Z part. Yours is quite clear. I'm able to grasp it. So it's actually a good example how you can use that. But you should be very careful with that, because whenever you are using X for Y, first important thing is this X, so in your case Airbnb should be actually a huge company so that everyone is aware of and they know it's a successful company. If you are using, I don't know, Buffer for that, Buffer is like, a lot of people know Buffer, but Buffer is not like Airbnb, it's that very different categories. But there are some cases that people use Buffer as well, or similar companies. So it should be quite successful and quite big company. The second point, it's like whatever you are building, so your Z should want to be like X. Like if you pitch like that, you really should want to implement that model and actually like their business model or their type of work or whatever, you should really want it, not just use it to make it simple. You know, it shouldn't be just for the sake of simplifying things. It should be actually reflecting to your strategy, your idea, your product, and everything. And also, your Z, so whatever you are pitching, should have obvious huge market. Because whenever you see, you say like we are Airbnb for this, and this part is quite small, I'm not able to relate to that. But if like from what you are saying, I see that actually this what you're pitching is also has a huge market, that works. So it's usually, like, it's very tricky. So you should be very careful while saying we are Uber for something or Airbnb for something. In your case, I believe it's quite good. You should be able to communicate it in the way, and people, most of the people will understand what you're saying. Okay. Do we have? Okay, we have time. So do we have another person who wants to jump in? Yeah, sure.
So it sounds like this. Signlink is a mobile application that helps the user to understand new people by translating their sign language gestures in real time.
I know you guys, so it makes me like biased a bit. So I know what you're building, but it's a bit long. I believe you can make it shorter. You can absolutely make it shorter, especially you're not building this very complex tech solution. You should be able to explain it shortly and in a more simple way. Just write it down and try to eliminate all the things that actually don't add value. Just remove them and keep it very short. We can talk afterwards. Okay. So yeah, just so that we fit into time, I'm gonna move forward, and whenever whoever wants to have some discussion around this, I have my contacts in the presentation, so you can take it, or we can talk after the workshop. So yeah, we talked about one-liner and elevator pitch quite a bit, and I want to make a couple of more points about making this more extensive elevator pitch or more extensive product description. So as we talked, you start with what do you do. It should be simple. You shouldn't be explaining the problem at that point. Don't just try to make it very impressive. And if you are not able to explain this in a simple way, try to view whatever you are building from the user perspective and walk me through that process. Like, I don't know, I'm building Google. You go into this platform, you type some things, you search it, and I give you the results from all over the internet. So you just explain it from the user perspective. That's also a good way to do it. The next part we go is how big is the market? And you should try to handle this objection in the first sentences of your elevator pitch to keep the conversation going and spike the interest up. How can you give a good impression of the market? Firstly, there is a background work on that, of course. If it is already an existing market, you should do a thorough research on it and try to estimate some things that actually fits your product. There are mostly two ways of estimating this market. One is the top-down approach, the other one is bottom-up approach. Top-down approach is you identify the market, you say, okay, this seems like this is my market, this has this much value, and I will be able to take, I don't know, 20% of their market, and you show that number. The other way is the bottom-up approach, and it's I like it more, is that you see there are a lot of comparable products that maybe not competitors, but also similar products to yours that are selling to similar markets. So you try to find the number of customers they have or the how much they sell, and try to give an estimate of how much you would be able to sell and what part of the market you would be able to take. And if you are this new market and there is no actually visible number on it, there is no research on it, you should be just use a couple of numbers to add them up and you'll get the number. It's mostly you see you are targeting the US market, people from this demographic area, these ages, I don't know, this interest, etc. You try to narrow it down, see how many people are there in those categories, and then you multiply it by the price that you are thinking that you can offer them, or you can sell them with that price, and you will get an estimate.
Sorry for my voice, it's down.
Yeah, sure.
How about, is it reasonable to buy very costly reports about, for example, biotech market research, global research, or very focused research by the regions, or no matter what's the one line about the market size is enough to include it in the pitch deck, for example?
Yeah, that really depends on the product. So if we're talking about the biotech sphere, it should be different than e-commerce and other industries. So it really depends on your case, but mostly I don't recommend founders to put a lot of numbers in the slides and just a lot of numbers, a lot of charts, just to it's overwhelming. It shouldn't be a complicated slide. Market slide should be very simple. Maybe you should just have one graph on it, just your estimate of how it's growing, how your revenue will be growing, or how your market will be growing. Or you should have it two numbers. One is the current value of that market or the market that you can take, and the other one is the growth rate, how much it is growing. Keep it very simple. That doesn't matter what you are pitching, but don't use a lot of numbers and a lot of charts, a lot of graphs. It just complicates things. It doesn't add value in this case. You can keep more information if you are pitching for investors. You can keep more information as an annex, after the presentation. So whenever you are asked a question, you can go back and show some slides and explain more about the market if you will be asked things like that. But during the 3-minute or 4-minute pitch, just keep it simple and include only the most important numbers that are there. So yeah, after like showing that you have this big market that you are tapping into, we talk about what's your progress. So here you say like you say what's there, right? You don't need to like think of some things just to impress. What's impressive is the amount of work done in, I don't know, in a single period, you know, like how much work you actually did in 1 month. Or you said we started in, I don't know, September, and so far we have done these things. And if the number of things that you count are actually impressive, that's what's gonna impress us. So how much work actually you got done during this period. And another very important part is what's your unique insight. This is also called like unique value proposition, unfair advantage, I don't know, competitive advantage, so anything that you can think of. But mostly unique insight. Why do I say this in this way? It's because it should be actually an insight, not something you just came up and said, okay, this is going to be my differentiation. And this insight can come from deep analysis and research that you have done with your own market and your own customers. It shouldn't be something that you looked up on the internet and said, okay, we have this thing that we're going to pitch. So you should actually go to talk to your customers, your potential users, and get insights from them, which you can later use to strengthen your product, your idea, and your pitch. So for these unique insights, you can use information that comes from the customer interviews, deep analysis of existing solutions. So if you are pitching something, we assume that you know everything about that sphere already. If you don't, that's a problem. Just go and do some more homework and then come to pitch. So you should have all the information about the sphere. And when you have that, you will be able to see what's unique there and what's not unique there. And this unique part, it's a bit tricky because usually like founders like to say, we do this cheaper. We are more affordable way of doing it, or we do this, I don't know, 10 times faster, etc. It can be a good way of framing it, but really depends on the case. And I wouldn't go for the cheap part if that's the only differentiation. You shouldn't be differentiating yourself with price, because these innovative tech products have a lot of other things that you can differentiate yourself with. You don't need this blue ocean with price differentiation. So yeah, you should have this unique insight. And next, yeah, and also this unique insight can come from your own experience. So you have the most experience with this kind of products. You know that there is the problem like that and there is no solution like this. So you are able to give this, communicate this insight. The next part is the business model. This should be, I can't stress this enough, this should be very simple. In this business model part, whenever you are pitching it like in just an elevator pitch or doing a more longer pitch with pitch deck and etc., it shouldn't have all these, I don't know, prices that you usually see in some websites. You should be able to just communicate the logic that's under your business model. We don't expect you to say like, we are gonna sell this package with this price and like, I don't know, premium package with this price, etc. We just want to know what's the business model, whom you are selling, who are your customers, what is that, a subscription, is that something else, so just the logic. Then about the team, of course. In the team, you should be able to express why you are guys the ones that should be building this product. It can be about your expertise. Maybe you have experience with something very similar and you know everything about the sphere. So that's why you are the right person to do that. And if that's not the expertise case, you should be able to bring some very like solid points to express that you are the ones who should be building this, and you are actually very strong, and you can execute it and make it a bigger business. And the last point, what do you want? So whenever you're like talking to someone, okay, that's great. You're building a wonderful product. That's awesome. And then the last part is what do you want? If you don't communicate, what's your call to action? What do you expect from me or from whoever you are talking? It just stays on the air. That conversation is mostly pointless because you don't get anything from that conversation. So you should be able to understand during the conversation or before the conversation, what do you want from this person if you are talking on one-on-one, and just say like, I don't know, I want your feedback on our go-to-market strategy. Can we just have a coffee sometime next week and talk this through? Or I don't know, if you send this deck, it should have, if you are like sending it out for raising funding, it should have like just terms of the round, and if you are pitching and you don't want to raise, you should, I don't know, at least put a QR of your app and say like, download it, use it, give us your feedback. So just put a call to action or like communicate what do you want after whatever pitch you are doing. Yeah, I guess we are gonna end with this. I have some slides on the investment pitch deck as well, but I guess we won't be able to cover it. Whoever is interested, we can like talk later, and we have a lot of resources that I can share with you, and or if you want to like just have a one-on-one conversation, just drop me a line or approach me and say that you want that. We'll make it happen. So yeah, I guess that's it. Yeah, and like to be able to answer also some questions, I'll say this and then we're gonna conclude with this. So one simple way of communicating what you are building when you want to talk about the problem and solution in one simple way is this like way of telling it as a story. So X faced P, P is the problem, X faced this problem, then F introed S solved problem, X is happy. So just no, happy part is more like, don't just say it, X is happy, but but just a simple way of telling whatever you are doing in a story. This can help you just simplify whatever you have in mind, what you want to tell your audience. Yeah, I guess we talked about objections. These are about slides. Yeah, that's it. Let's go to questions if you have any.
Well, Anna, can we feel all these points as recommendations only? Because the only rule is that you can break each and every rule if you understand why you do that. For example, putting the financial ratios or more, let's say, indicative information there, if you understand who is assessing that.
Yeah, if we are talking the pitch deck.
Talking more about your team if you feel your team is weak.
Yeah, sure. Of course, you can experiment with that, and of course, you should fit it into your own example, your own case, and depending on each case. If you are talking about actually the pitch deck that you want to send out to someone or you are pitching with, there's like I made this summary thing that shows how like famous venture capital funds or like startups have their pitch decks and what they recommend to include in them. And you see like some of them include this financial part, some of them don't. Some of them include like about the board advisors, some don't. But there's this like couple of things that all of them have and all of them recommend to talk about in the slides and talk about in the pitch. And these are like problem, value proposition, business model, competition, founding team, and fundraising. And the rest really depends on your case. You can leave them include the rest or not exclude the rest. It really depends on the case, on your audience, whether you are doing an investor pitch, sales pitch, competition pitch. Really depends on who's your audience and also what they require. In some cases, investors require financial information or some other things to be included as a mandatory thing in the deck. So really depends on the case. Do we have more questions? Sure.
Is it a good idea to send a potential investor your elevator pitch to read it, to write, and to give his assessment about that, and only after that to make a meet with this person?
Yeah, actually, if you are like doing a cold reach out to someone, or just like you know them but you didn't talk about this investment opportunity, that should be the way to do it. So you should be able to communicate what you're building in a short one paragraph and send it out. And say like we're building this thing, and include all those like important points that I mentioned in that part, so that they are able to evaluate whether they are interested in you or not. And then say like, can we have like, I don't know, a 30-minute meeting to discuss this opportunity, or like get your feedback more on our strategy or our I don't know, like depending on what you want from that specific person. So that's one way to do it. The other way is to just send them out the whole comprehensive pitch deck that you prepared for sending out. So, and it should be different from the ones that you are pitching with, right? The slides that you are pitching with should have very less text. That's a quite different thing. And the slides that you are sending out should be a bit different. So you can do it either way. You can send the slides out with also like a comprehensive paragraph about your company or your product, and like try to get a meeting from them, or you can just send this one-liner or the paragraph and try to get a meeting with that. Sure. Okay. Okay. Any more questions?
Yep.
Sure.
Why no one is talking about the product at the altogether page 1, like product 0 axis?
Yeah, I know.
Why? Why we should not talk about the but the product?
Yeah, actually you can. You can do that. For whenever like we are reviewing the pitch decks of our companies, we don't say just eliminate the product part. If there is something to show, if there is like, and it fits into the time of, I said like 3-minute pitch, you are free to talk about the product. If you are not gonna complicate things with that, you know, like if you are able to communicate all the important points without going deeper into the product, without going deeper into the features, etc., it's better to do that way. But really depends on, again, who are your audience, what's your product, and what you try to communicate.
Oh, so instead of the product, we just say the solution.
Yeah, solution is very similar to, like the product part is, what we understand under product is more extensive information about the product, like feature, technology, how it works, like workflow processes, and things like screenshots or things like that. You can actually, we recommend also keeping the screenshots of product in the annex whenever you have the chance, so that like if there is a question, you can go and show some things from your product. But mostly you should be able to communicate whatever you are building in this solution value proposition part. And if you fit into the time, you can also include some more detailed information on the product, but it shouldn't be so that like it disturbs your pitch, you know, so that the logic stays good for the purpose. Okay, guys, I would love to answer more questions, but we are over, like the time is over. So whoever wants to talk to me about any of your products or like anything, just connect me on LinkedIn, drop me a note, we can talk later. It was nice seeing you all. Thank you.